Hey, good people. Welcome back to the Black Mental Wellness Lounge. I'm excited. We just finished wrapping up our 1 year anniversary. So excited to be continuing to do this content, and I appreciate each and every one of you all jumping on every month, checking out the content, all that good stuff. It means the world to me to continue to push this stuff forward. And again, definitely appreciative of all the people that's been sharing it. USA Today, Complex Magazine. There's a feature coming up at the lounge in Johns Hopkins Magazine. So definitely excited for all the work. But listen, tonight I'm trying to move as fast as possible to get out the way so we can engage with my panelists that I have on today. And so I'm gonna bring them up, and I am so grateful for each and every one of y'all jumping on. You know, each and one of y'all are my brothers in one way or another, and I appreciate the work that you're all doing. So I'm gonna step back. I'm gonna toss it to you, each of y'all, for introductions. And so I'm gonna kick it off and start it with uh, Dr. Monty Burks. This brother, I've been privileged and honored enough to even serve on a panel with him. During this space, like, and again, I always want to go first because I don't want to follow him. So I'm gonna kick it off to the brother Monty to introduce himself.
Absolutely. My name is Monty Burks. My day job, I'm the Director of Faith-Based Initiatives with the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. I'm also a person that's in long-term recovery from substance abuse and a mental health diagnosis. I have 21 years free from the bondage that almost destroyed me and my family. I'm a mental health advocate. I'm a substance abuse advocate. I'm also a person that's really connected to the community from the rural areas as well as the metropolitan areas. I think that recovery, however that may look, and resilience, however that may look, takes a whole community. So we have to stop whispering behind closed doors and put stuff out in public and have these open conversations like we're having tonight in the Black Mental Wellness Lounge. We have to have more grown men doing grown-up things, leaving grown-up examples instead of little boys doing that.
Absolutely, thank you, big bro. Appreciate you coming on.
You're the best speaker ever. You quit that.
High praise is not deserved. Thanks, bro. I appreciate that. So now I want to have brother Tsanonda Edwards come on. This brother, this is our first time collabing. This is our first time collabing, like, officially. But you know how you work in the same city, you work in the same space, and names start to come up, especially black men. There ain't a lot of us doing this work, so people start to come up, and so this brother's name kept coming up. Then I saw a YouTube of a presentation of him, and I was just sitting there like, okay, we got to connect, and so we connected. I'm so grateful to have you on, and so I want you to introduce yourself to the lounge.
First of all, much appreciated, brother Brandon. And again, as you said, look, I'm like, I got to follow up, brother Monty, bringing all that good energy. Oh man, I got to come with it. But yes, again, Tsanonda Edwards. I am the co-founder and director of community engagement for an organization called Above It All. It's an organization, PRP organization, that works with young people ages 5 to 17 to help them reach their therapeutic goals. In addition to being the co-founder director of community engagement for Above It All, I am also an author of the book called The Extraordinary Mr. Nobody, A Beginner's Guide to Self-Healing, where I kind of use my life as a mirror to allow people to kind of reflect on some of the choices that they've made, some of the paths that they've taken, and I kind of use that as a springboard to kind of get to their personal greatness. We always talk about blueprints, and everyone has their own personal blueprint. So I want my book to kind of be used as a reflection of my life, but you use that to kind of jump again toward your personal greatness. I'm a former educator with Baltimore City Public Schools. I kind of went from there and kind of directed some organizations, after-school programs, things of that nature. And now I have found my home again as the co-founder of my organization and working with the young people in my organization and just the young people throughout Maryland, and with mental health as the focus, but as kind of getting to that baseline of evenness, and then again using that as a trajectory towards success. So I appreciate it to be a part of this. Excited about the conversation and looking forward to working with you gentlemen now and in the future.
Absolutely. I appreciate you being here. Last but certainly not least, brother Nic Hardy. We first met. Was it last year we did the first one? But we
Last year,
yeah, I think it was.
beginning of this year, I can't remember.
Listen, the pandemic through. I don't know what time is like, but we worked together. And I definitely want you to check out the video because I did a video with Dear Fathers here on the Black Men on Wellness Lounge, so definitely check them out. But Dear Fathers has this initiative called Straight Mental, where the last Sunday of every month, you gather up a bunch of men and we just talk, we just have good conversation, and so I got the opportunity to co-facilitate two of those now with brother Nic, and I remember just being there and getting started, and I felt like at a certain point I was like I had to get back in the facilitator role because I was just listening to you and trying to take in as much as I could while we were doing it, and so I've grown to follow you in the work that you're doing, and I'm appreciative of everything that you had to this space. And so Nic, can you just introduce yourself to the lounge?
Man, absolutely. Appreciate that, Brandon. Yeah, and you're right. Like with COVID, my times are off, right? Last year, I don't know if we're talking last year or last year.
Right.
But yes, Dear Fathers, definitely resident therapist for Dear Fathers, and kind of had their Straight Mental Sessions, which is a platform for Black men to come together and discuss everything mental health related, from relationships, parenting, setbacks, you name it, grief and loss. Straight Mental is a weekly session that is offered through the Dear Fathers platform. But I'm also founder of my own counseling practice here in Houston, Texas, Nic Hardy Counseling. Didn't get too creative with it. But again, it's a private practice, work with couples and individuals, adults, and really focus on healthy relationships, specifically within the Black community, because that's where we see a lot of gaps, especially when it comes to disparities around relationship outcomes. So yeah, prior to having my own practice, definitely worked in the nonprofit space for a number of years, worked in development, fundraising, and a bunch of other things. But my heart has always been mental health counseling, and just providing therapy to vulnerable populations. So Brandon, everybody, man, just excited to be here. Look forward to just dialoguing on a topic that's personal for me on so many levels. And yeah, let's dive right in.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I can tell y'all how excited I am about the conversation tonight that I didn't even prep to talk what the topic was when I started. So that should give you a sense of how excited I am about this conversation. But tonight, what we're going to do is really talk in dialogue around the state of Black men's mental health, Black men and Black boys, tonight, to really dive into this issue specifically for us. There's not a lot of conversations around this, or not enough. Let's put it that way. Each of us individually are doing this work in our spaces across the country, but it's so important for us to have dialogue, see where we are, how do we move, forward to look at wholeness and completeness and wellness with our Black men and young boys. Those of you who know me know I work a lot in suicide prevention, and we're seeing these rates in our Black boys and Black men in terms of suicide attempts and deaths continuing to go up. This is something we're not talking about enough. We're not dialoguing this. We're not trying to come up with the solutions. And one thing that you know about the Black Mental Wellness now is that we believe that the solutions are already there. They're already happening. They're already within us. They're already within community. So how do we elevate and have conversation tonight and say something that may, impact or move another Black man into engaging with his own, mental health? And so with that, I'm gonna go and kick it right off. So, each of you, we talk about Black mental health, Black men's mental health. And what would you say in your own way? Answer this however you feel makes sense. But what would you say right now is like the current state of Black men's mental health? And I'm gonna stop right there and let you all answer that whatever way makes sense to you. And Tsanonda, I'm gonna kick it off with you and let you go into it, and then we'll get the dialogue started.
So I think that the state of Black men's mental health, it's in kind of, I'm going to say this, it's a growing period. It's definitely a state of what I would call flux, if you could say. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I think that Black men are moving toward that space of healing. There's definitely a desire for it. I think that there are platforms and there are discussions and there are events and just different things that are going on, specifically like what we're doing right now as Black men speaking with one another, and again, pushing the conversation forward. But I also believe that it's a long road to go. And that's why I say flux, because you have more Black men who are therapists. You have more Black men who are serving as advocates for mental health. You have more Black men who are opening up these conversations and having them. So I think that, again, there's a long, long way for us to go, but we are trying to turn certain corners. I think that some of the things that we've done in the past, we're starting to see that it's no longer helpful anymore. Some of these kind of like the coping mechanisms and things, that the negative coping mechanisms that we've been using aren't getting us where we want to go, because I think that we're starting to grow personally. We're starting to grow as fathers. We're starting to grow as community members. So because of that, we're starting to really see that mental health is a big part of our personal, again, success, right? So because of that, I think that we're in this state of flux. We're in this state of more people trying to achieve and start the healing that we deserve. So again, definitely a state of flux. We've made progress, but I think that we still definitely have a lot of work to do and a lot further to go.
Amen. Good.
Yeah.
If one of your brothers can jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that last sentence you just said is really what I was thinking about in terms of summing it up, right? We've made so much progress over the past decade, right? But really probably within the past 5 years, I think. And in part, it's because we have had more conversations around mental health. It's always been there, but the more we talk about it, the more we bring it to the forefront, the less taboo it becomes, right? And even just adding some vocabulary around certain things that we may be going through has been beneficial. And I don't mean boxing people into labels or, you know, I have this or I have that, but just being able to say that, hey, whatever I'm experiencing is okay to talk about, right? And normalizing that has made us increase, you know, the awareness around mental health and made us more comfortable with it, you know? So it's less shocking if someone says, hey, this is where I'm at. And just that in and of itself, I think is tremendous progress. However, when you look at it, particularly in comparison to other demographic groups, right, there's still so much more work to be done, particularly in terms of representation, right? We need more representation on male, Black, woman, Black therapy spaces, right? Because familiarity is a huge part of establishing that connection is in certain spaces. And so proud of where we've come from, but definitely so much more to go.
You know, and I'm gonna piggyback right off of what Nick was saying. We need more examples of Nic Hardy counseling. So to be culturally competent and to give a culturally competent response, you need to understand the culture, possibly be from the culture or have been immersed in the culture. I think that where we are now with open dialogue, we have people that are not afraid to express emotions. You know, at one point we grew up, we couldn't be weak. Society had a view of who we were and who we were going to be. We had to accept the fact that we ain't gotta be that. We don't have to let you judge us. We don't have to let you put us in a box. We are bigger and stronger than that. And with that, the growth that has happened is we have above it all. We have Nic Hardy counseling. We have a Black mental wellness lounge. Now we need to continue to have this open dialogue so other people that might not necessarily be mental health professionals, but have the potential to be mental health advocates become parts of these conversations. Establishing a baseline of definitions, tell people, quit calling folks crazy. Quit using stereotypical names to describe what you think my mental health is, because what you're doing is you labeling me. And I say this all the time, man. If you tell a fish its whole life that it has to climb a tree to be a fish, then it's always going to be dissatisfied or it's always going to have depression or anxiety. But if you tell a fish that it was meant to swim and you throw it in the water and it swims off, that fish is going to be a success in that fish's world. So that's what we're doing now, is we're opening the door for all of this other wonderful stuff to happen organically. And how that's going to happen is a Nic Hardy counseling. We need 1 million of you. And we need we need above it alls in every city, people that can connect on the ground. Somebody's going to be a mechanic. Somebody's going to be a teacher. Somebody's going to be a doctor. Somebody's going to be a rapper. Somebody's going to be a singer. Every single one of them need to know that it's okay to reach out to a counselor or a therapist, as well as their pastors, and talk about mental health.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. And even on the advocate part, you're right, because there's never going to be enough counselors to address every issue. And this is where just our connection with others and relationships. So even just your everyday layperson still needs to be familiar with what we're all going through, because you're going to call your friend before you reach out to Nic Hardy Counseling. And so you have to be equipped, right? They don't have to go to grad school and do all of that, but they still need to be equipped to just listen and not make the situation worse, right? And I think that's what some of the labels, pushing people away, minimizing how they're feeling, just a baseline understanding of just how to support each other as we go through life together.
Absolutely. I was just saying, with you guys, just because of this friendship, if I was in Maryland, I had friends. I said Maryland, right? Maryland. I said Maryland, right? If I was in Maryland and I needed somebody to connect me on the ground, I'm not from the ground of Maryland. All right. But now I know you. And you can be my groundwork in Maryland. So instead of me telling somebody I don't know the answer or giving them something bogus, I'm gonna call you because I know what you do.
That's it. And honestly, it's one of those things. I actually, it felt good to hear Brother Monty say I'm a mental health advocate, because in the reality of it is I'm an advocate. Oftentimes people will see, wow, you have this organization. Yes, I co-founded this organization. I'm very proud of it, but I am not a therapist. I am not Nic Hardy. I'm not. I'm a mental health advocate. So what I can do is I can point you in the direction. And what I do with my people, we train our people up with amazing therapists to help these young people get what they need. So just like Brother Monty is saying, my inbox is flooded with people who are accepting and understanding. And again, I am not a therapist, but I can point them in the right direction because, and another thing that Brother Monty said in the very beginning in his introduction, man, that was powerful, honestly powerful for me, is it's about being transparent. It's about letting people know the struggles that you have gone through. Brother Monty said that he struggled with substance abuse, right? And personally, I was diagnosed with depression probably about 2 or 3 years ago. And prior to that, I was an empathetic person. I like to listen. I like to make sure things were okay. But I had to go after my own healing so that I could tell people just how powerful that healing can be, right? And again, it's still a work in progress, but I'm proud to be a mental health advocate who can point to the Nic Hardys of the world to help young people further get, again, the healing that they need.
Absolutely. And, what you guys are talking about is so critical. Like we're talking about these, these systems, these unspoken systems. So like, having people, with their experiences and with the things that they're dealing with to really just, pull down, those walls that other men have and just be able to make those connections and get people to help and, the services that they need. And so that is a critical piece of it, is breaking down these, these walls for folks. And so in that same vein, I want to ask you all this question because we want to use the lounge to help, break down some of these walls ourselves. And so we have a lot of, different people that, that jump on and watch. And, a lot of them are, we have different people that are in and check us out. And so I want to give listeners this aspect. I want to ask you all this question and answer it again, however you feel. But what is one thing that you wish other people kind of knew that men dealt with that we don't talk about a lot? So like, what is something that as a man that you're like, we don't address this enough, but it's something that probably all of us deal with. Mine, I would just say grief and loss. We don't talk about that grief piece and how men grieve and how we grieve, not just the loss of human, loss of routine, loss of safety, loss of security, loss of identity. All of those things are things that we deal with, that we grieve, and we don't talk about. So I want to normalize some things tonight, and I want to get people to, to think about some of those things and see themselves in this conversation. So I want to toss that question to you all.
Man, I'll go ahead and jump. I'll tell you, the first word that came to mind for me was just fear. Fear. And you can attach that to so many different aspects of life. You know what I'm saying? Man, you're fearful about being able to provide for your family. You fearful that, you're not excelling as a father. You fear, just fear in and of itself, I think encapsulates so much that men go through. but never say it. And I don't mean say it in a roundabout way, right? I mean verbalizing it, like, man, I'm nervous, I'm scared. Like that, like even just saying it now, I'm like, dang, well, I don't mean scared. You know, I mean, but like in all sincerity, right? Just that fear, because fear paralyzes us. You know, fear causes us to overcompensate in certain areas. I mean, there's so many. Fear has so many different faces, but at the core of it is it's this fear, it's this worry, you know. And I don't think we're having conversations enough about just that in and of itself.
I'm gonna piggyback on it. He's exactly right. One thing that we don't do in the Black community is say it's okay to not be okay.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have all the answers. We're not always going to be Superman. You know, we don't have to always have the answers. At some point, if we continue to let little things fracture us while we continue to be tough, we're going to crumble and break. You have to stop and fix those small fractures. So, you know, I think that those, again, having this open dialogue, this is the springboard for so many other conversations that you're going to bring us back on for another mental health wellness lounge. I think that you should. This is a great team. But, you know, myself, I was always taught that I had to fix everything as a man.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody came to me and I couldn't be weak, I couldn't cry, couldn't be emotional, because if I did, that was a sign of weakness, which would make me soft. And in my community, I grew up in a fight culture. I'm a former fighter. I've got a long fight history, guys. You can check me out, man. It's totally cool. My mental health is actually what got me into that. That's another story. But in that, I learned to tell people like, nah, man, I'm not okay. I'd like to talk to somebody, you know, and I learned to do that. And sometimes people laughed at me, but I found that the ones who laughed the most were the ones who were hurting the most. Hurt people because they don't know how to communicate. So that's, you know, and Nick, I thank you, Nick, you opened it up. I think Nick used a little counselor method to kind of stroke that a little bit and to bring that out of me. So again, that's the importance of having a mental health advocate and professional in your life to be able to pull that type of information out of you.
Man, appreciate that.
Look, literally, just like Nick said, the first thing that came to my mind was fear, anxiety. Just this, you know, these feelings that we generally have, right? So again, echoing these gentlemen's sentiments, like it is, Brother Monty said it, it's okay to not be okay. And so often we feel as men that we have to carry the brunt of society on our backs. That's our families and the community and the church and everything. Men, we have to carry it. And it's nothing wrong with being a part of the carrying process, but we also have to be strong enough, kind of go from that, you know what I'm saying, that fear aspect, and be strong enough to say when we're not okay. One thing that I've learned, I kind of talk about this example often, is men are generally just often inundated with the ways that we're supposed to feel from when we're young, the way we're supposed to feel, the way we're supposed to act. I remember thinking about my college years at Morgan State University. Shout out to Morgan. Right, going to the club, right? And this is every university across the world, right? You're going to the club. Most times you with your homeboys, the first thing they tell you to do is, man, when you pull into that parking spot, make sure you back in. Because if something jump off, we got to be ready to peel out quick, right? You get into the club. First thing they tell you to do, man, listen, make sure you got your back up against the wall, because anything could pop off, anything could jump off, anything can happen. You're supposed to be going in to have a good time. Right. We have this culture of PTSD immediately. I've gone to the club a number of times. Yeah, small things have happened, but I've never had to peel out of a club parking lot before. Like, it's just, you know what I mean? So we have these ideas that are generated and fed into us, and we're literally going through almost like PTSD.
Yes, we are. 400 years of trauma. People have consistently passed over trauma after trauma and not actually stopped to deal with the PTSD, to stop it. If you don't stop the water flow, the water continues to flow. You look at these great lakes and rivers that go through this country, they all started as a stream. It's the same thing with PTSD. It will literally continually program your brain until you learn to reprogram your brain. Man, you hit that right on the head. And I remember I taught at TSU, HBCU, right here in Nashville, Tennessee. I was there for years. I had some of those same experiences, pre-teacher and post-teacher. I'm asking myself, like I'm in a Dave Chappelle skit. Why am I here in the first place? Why am I here right now? I think I just want to go home and eat some ice cream at this point in my life. But you're right. It was because of something somebody else programmed into me with their words. They used the right trigger words that got my attention. And the next thing you know, my brain went from going this way to this way. It went from having fun time to, man, I better be ready to fight and protect time. And that translates into so many other levels of what we're talking about right now.
Hey, look, growing up, they used to say Memphis, look, the best defense is offense, you know, so.
Right.
Because once they get the jump on you, it's a wrap.
You ready?
It's a wrap. You imagine that, thinking about that, even as we grow, we telling somebody else what somebody else told us.
Yes, absolutely.
Y'all, I'm gonna give y'all a story. I went to Memphis and I learned a dance called the Gangster Walk back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know Memphis was mosh pitting before they was mosh pitting. They was doing it, you know what I'm saying? They were getting it in. The right song come on, and you wouldn't know if it was a football game or the club you was in. You know, you was right on the front line. But, you know, again, not understanding what I see, you feel threatened. But then when you realize it's just a cultural time of fun, the fear went away. And I was like, man, let me jump on in here real quick and then have a good time.
Right.
But
you
the fear
want to leave a little early, though. Just
you still want to leave. I want to leave before everybody else leaves.
But yeah, have fun. Have fun.
Have fun. You go home at an early time, at the appointed hour.
Yes.
Brandon. The appointed hour.
Listen, Tsanonda, if that ain't Baltimore, you don't need to stay. You don't need to stay too long. You don't do your thing, but go home so you can go the next night.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely, man. Y'all brought up some really good points, and that PTSD thing is so real, especially with some of the things that we brought up. There was a study that came out. I don't even know when it was. It was a couple of years. It was, I guess, 5 years ago at this point. But basically, they looked at the PTSD symptoms of Black people. It wasn't just men, but Black people in Baltimore City, and they compared it to war-torn countries that had civil war. The PTSD in Baltimore was the same, and in some places higher than those countries. Like, those are things that we don't talk about. Like, those are things that we don't process, because we feel like we have to be, tough the entire time. Like, nothing bothers us. And it's a survival technique. Like, it's something that we've had to do. And Monty, you talked about the 400 years of what we had to do in this country. We've had to build up, those kind of things. But it's definitely something that weighs on us, for sure, if we don't take it off.
And Brandon, one thing that you said, you talked about grief and loss, right? And in Baltimore specifically, to the point that you were making about that article that came out, it talked about how you have young people, families, just everyone losing people on the ongoing basis, whether it's to gun violence or whatever's going on, that it becomes almost such of a common occurrence that they're not even properly grieving what's going on with them. And like you said, it's almost like a war-torn country, right?
Yep. We don't have time. We've not had time to grieve. As part of grief and loss, we have not found the time to grieve. So what happens is other emotions start filling that void, and we start taking out that grief in other ways on other people. It's that excitation, anger transfer theory, man. We don't even realize why we mad, and we take it to somebody else in our household, man. I mean, that happens all the time. I'm gonna tell you something about culture, is that we didn't have time to heal. All of those years, all we had to do was get tough. We were never really given that downtime to reacclimate, to control, alt, to lead, to reestablish. So what we had to do is be tough. And what happens is now, and for the past 20 or 30 years, all of that pain and struggles came out through our music and through our art, how we shown ourselves through art. All types of pain and trauma in the lyrics, in the paintings, in the acting, and even in the matriculation in sports. It's almost like we're going to war with culture to show you I'm bigger and better and stronger than that. And you can't hold me down, without ever saying why, without saying what is driving us. Man, it's yeah, man. But again, these types of conversations have to happen to let people know that, listen, the wound is open. It ain't never been closed. How about we talk about how to close the wound from the inside and quit putting Band-Aids on it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. So to pivot into another question, we want to try to get to, figuring out how do we improve from where we are. We talked about the state of Black men's mental health. Like, how do we get people to the point of healing, or even, just getting people from wherever they are to a better spot? Some people are not even thinking about their mental health. They're not even thinking about what those, some of these things are that we're talking about. and all of these things. And so I wanted to, hear from each of you. So just like, finish this set, fill in the blank, however you want to do it. But we could begin to improve the mental health of our Black men in this country by doing blank. What are some of the things that we could start to do collectively to start to change conversations and shift and begin to help men grow in terms of their mental health?
Man, I'm gonna take a stab at this first, right? And a couple options came up, but a lot of it was external, right? Well, what about the systems, and what about the? I would say that we need to start leaning more into each other, right? Like start with what you have. There are people around you who can support you. There are people around there who can actually help you navigate life. And so taking the initiative to lean into that and open up, right? And allow people to help you. Because people can't help you if you shut it off, right? So creating a space for other people to help you, I think is a phenomenal first step. And the good thing is this is within our control, right? And so this isn't putting our change in the hands of somebody else, right? This is something that each of us, regardless of socioeconomic status, demographics, like there is someone who you could probably reach out to who has the skills, capabilities to support you. They may not be able to help you the entire way, but they can help you at least at some season or one part of your journey. So that's what I would say,
I think that we need to praise, and like he said, the journeymen, the ones that can help you navigate. I think we culturally need to praise those journeymen. We sometimes put a lot of emphasis on who we want to be our cultural heroes, and we forget about the teachers. And the people that play those middle roles. Reading, writing, and arithmetic are very important. We have to have basic understanding of a lot of other stuff so that we can understand how to articulate our problems as we grow. I'm a guy, I came from the streets. I'm an academic that came from the bottom, man. I came from the worst of what you can get. And the reason that I was able to matriculate through that is because I had the right people tell me the right stories. I slipped and fell. They picked me up and told me that I don't have to go back. I can continue to move forward. And that's what I picked up my mat and I walked because somebody told me how to pick up my mat and walk. And with that being said, somebody's got to represent and talk about those sisters that have decided to take their whole career getting paid half of what everybody else is to teach the 6th grade. We need to teach our children that when we speak to those teachers and we address those teachers, we give them the same respect as we give somebody that's a cultural icon or a hero. Because without them, you can't read, you can't write, you can't communicate, and you're going to end up in a place that you don't want to be in. So if that's the one thing that I could give back is celebrate more the realistic ideal figures that people are, or the places that people are actually going to be. We got one in a million chance to be a professional athlete, but we might have 1 in 50 chance of being a high level teacher or a doctor or an attorney. It's not going to be a luck of the draw. It's going to be a work of the feet that get you there. So we have to continue to teach them that and teach them that from the bottom level. That's why, again, I like these types of conversations because we have literally got 4 different people that are just like arrows being shot out of the same bow. They're going to land in a different spot. And what we do, having that collective, is we can reach other people. I'm celebrating you guys. I'm celebrating the counselor. I'm celebrating the program on an equal platform. I'm also celebrating clergy on an equal platform because sometimes clergy are not given the proper tools to address mental health in their communities. And that's another thing we need to talk about, Brandon, on this next cast that you're going to bring us on in the next couple of months that I keep talking about.
I love it. I love it, brother. Look, brother,
dropping seeds on
it. I love it. Yes. I love it. But Brandon, I would actually have to kind of sort of echo both of these good brothers' sentiments, man. The first thing that came to my mind was talking, conversation. Men have to talk. And it's interesting because I remember for years, I guess it would be kind of toxic, but men were told, man, women, they talk too much. They always talking to each other and running to each other and running their mouths and talking. And guess what? That's exactly what we need to do. It's exactly why women can sometimes get a little bit more level-headed because they've had opportunity to get outside perspective on subjective things. So we have to get to a point where we're dealing with stuff. we pulling our brother up. I mean, often I have to go to some of my homeboys, man, like, listen, man, my wife, I love her to death. I'm like, man, but she did something that kind of ticked me off, man. What you think about this? And it's, no, man, I think you're looking at, brother, so you know you're a little sensitive, right? So listen, all she probably was doing was A, B, and C. And it's, oh, yeah, I didn't
Right. Oh.
You already know.
So again, we have to get to a point where, just like Brother Nic said, we having the conversations, and we are, I think, like Brother Monty was saying, man, we are building a tribe of people who are willing to support us in our times of need and doing it in an honest and, again, a transparent way, where they're not just feeding us what they think we want to hear, but they're giving us the tools that we need to kind of point us in the right direction. And then I think another thing that Brother Monty said that was important is picking up our mat. We got to reflect. We got to look at ourselves. We can't hold everybody else accountable. Yes, we can obviously look to people to kind of guide us and help us along, but we have to, Brother Monty said, we have to pick up our mat and walk. That's what we have to do. And I mean that honestly in a literal sense, and then sometimes in a faith-based sense. When you think about that woman having that faith and touching the hem of Jesus' garment, have the faith that you're able to make that thing happen, and surround yourself with people who are going to push you to continue on your path of greatness. No question.
Come on, man.
Real, man.
You came out right there. I enjoyed that. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Come on,
Listen, that's one of the things that I think in that same vein that you all are talking about. You know, I tell men all the time, like, you know, celebrate them small victories, man. Celebrate when, you know, when things go right. Like we can, you know, deal with, we can always humble ourselves to the point that we don't appreciate ourselves. Like we can be, you know, we gotta become, can't be too braggadocious, can't talk about this. Man, sometimes be happy, like be happy that those things are working. Be happy that those, like, celebrate that. If you had a good week, you got to work on time every day, man. That's a blessing. The kids, like, you know, the kids, they was good this week. Like, they ain't giving no trouble. And I'm speaking personally, that's a testimony, like, personally from myself. It wasn't this week, but I'm saying, you know, in theory, you know, like those things and being able to do that, because I don't, you know, it's to the point of, you know, we talked about this earlier, like we've been taught so much to survive, not to thrive, right? Like we just have to get from today to tomorrow and make sure that we're still here for our family, because we have protector status, we have provider status, you know, we have leadership status. But how do we make sure that we're like, man, like this went good, or I did that today, or I said I was gonna, you know, do this every day. I said I was gonna pack my lunch every day and not eat out, and I did it. Like, cool, like that, you know, like, and give yourself that motivation, I think, is another you know, key part of this. And so we're getting ready to wrap up soon. We're gonna have to do a part 2 to talk about our black boys, because we just ain't got the time to do it justice tonight.
That's a whole session right there.
It's a whole session.
Yeah.
So we're gonna bring y'all back and get y'all in on this one. But you know, just one more thing too. Can you all highlight a tool, a strategy, or a resource for our black men, if they're hearing this, they're listening to this, and they're like, you know, I can resonate with what you all are talking about, and I want to add something to my toolbox to be able to get myself to some of the places that we talked about tonight. Can you just mention, you know, like I said, a strategy, maybe something that they can do, a resource that's available to them, or there's something that could help them start to move into a different place?
I actually have an acronym that I've kind of put together and I use often. I think it's simple. I think that it's something that it's not cookie cutter, which means everybody kind of has their own way of dealing and being able to utilize it. It's STST. STST. So the first S is self-care. T is tribe. The next S is spirituality. And the final T is therapy. So focus in. That first is self-care. Figure out what I call the nouns of you. What are the people, places, and things that help you to thrive, help you to feel great about yourself? And then figure out on your own what you need to do to self-care, take care of yourself. Then you have that first T is tribe. Brother Monty talked about it. Get the right people in your corner. Make sure that you're turning to the right people who are able to help you and able to guide you, people that you can go to help you, again, manifest your level, your personal level of greatness. The second S is spirituality. Whatever your spirituality is, lock into that, tap into it. Make sure that you're on good terms with whether it's you can be Christian, Rastafari, Muslim, whatever it is. Tap into your spirituality. Have that spiritual base, and then you're able to kind of push along. And then that last T is therapy. Therapy is a viable option. And I tell people all the time, it's just like a physical doctor. If you go to a physical doctor and that doctor doesn't really align with how you think your physical body should be, you might have to go get a second opinion. You might have to go do other things. Because oftentimes you'll find people will say, well, my therapist, it wasn't really working out, so I just quit therapy. No, find someone else.
Right.
My therapist is a Christian woman therapist. That may not work for you. Someone else may need a male atheist therapist. I don't know. So again, you need to figure out which level of therapy works for you, but don't give up on it. Give it a try and push to be your best. So if I had to, it would be that acronym, STST.
Listen, and I'm gonna say it in the video: trademark, patent pending, nobody steal it. You heard it here first. If you're gonna use it, put my brother's name on it. Like we gonna listen. I'm gonna put all that in there.
Man, I'll jump in. You know, I was reading something the other day, and for some reason it just resonated with me when it comes to tools, because this is a very simple tool that is difficult for many of us to actually use, and that's, man, just slow down. Just slow down. Right. And what I read was, it said, if the devil can't get you to do bad, he'll just keep you busy. And I was just like, it hit me, because as long as you're busy, you can be distracted, right? You can be distracted from your own needs. You can be distracted from your family. You can be distracted of so many things that could actually help you, because you're just so busy doing. So again, it's a tool, and it's harder than we think, right? Because there's so much to get done. We got so many goals, so many, but slow down. Like, allocate some time each day to just do nothing, right? Now, I'm not saying you got to, sleep in every night. That's extreme. I mean, but just take some time to just be in the moment. Slow down, right? And you'll see how difficult it is, because the tendency will be for us to grab our phone. Well, man, I could be using this time doing that. I mean, it sounds easy until you actually try it. So the one tool, slow down. Just slow down.
I got I've got an acronym with my brother right here that's on my shirt. So I love your acronym too. We're going to share acronyms, man. We're going to use these things. If that how people connect, that's how they connect. Nick, you said it again. You opened the door with something, and you hit right on the head. Is be intentional with your time.
Yeah.
When a lot of people wake up in the morning, man, and the first thing they do is get on social media, and all that is you go into a traffic jam of other people's emotions before you even put your feet on the ground. That means you're feeding off of everything else everybody been mad about all night long. That's the first thing you gonna see, because what's popular, an algorithm's gonna feed you what everybody's been liking or arguing about. It's not going to give you your motivational verse of the morning to get you going. It's going to give you the argument from last night. Right. And that's what's going to drive you. So at 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning, you're going to be working on your work routine, and you're going to be mad as I don't know what. You'll have the wrong playlist on, and it is OB for anybody to cross your path. All right? So I think be intentional with your time and what your intake is going to be, so you can control your outcome. You wouldn't want to take your car to the gas station and put water in it. You want to put some good gas in the pump so the car can drive. And that's, and so this acronym, Mind Box, I call it the Mind Box. This is my thing, man. I do a lot of, outside of my work, I train a lot of people. I do a lot of fitness training, work with a lot of people with different things, different life controlling issues. A lot of people work out. It isn't just for physical fitness. It's mostly for mental fitness, mental capacity. So M is manage your mental health. Learn to manage your mental health according to you. According to you. Get the tools and do it yourself. And then you can learn how to navigate emotions. That's what the N stands for. Listen, it's okay to have emotions, but you have to know that emotions and feelings lie to you. Okay? They can make you do something that you shouldn't do, so you have to learn how to process them. D is destroy the negativity. Get rid of it. Deconstruct it. Move it out of your framework so you can do B. Start to build bridges instead of burn down everything in your path. And then X, you can experience life like that. You can experience life knowing that you have tools to use. Man, the same tool, you can give all four of us the same tool, and I guarantee you, if we use it long enough, we can learn to use it differently. It's all about how we translate it, how to use it. Thing is just give us the tool. Tell us what it does, give it to us, and then let us learn how to manage it and use it in situations that we feel vulnerable. Hey, it's okay to be vulnerable. I tell my story everywhere I go. Brandon knows this. I'm in recovery, and I will tell anybody. And if anybody's mad at me for telling my recovery story, so what? You shouldn't have gave me the platform. And whatever fight you think we're fighting, I've already won. Carry on.
Right.
Yes.
Listen. We have to put a pause, and I'm intentionally with pause. Oh, first of all, trademark patent pending for all of Monty's acronyms. Also, we trying to keep these.
Hey, I'm gonna have an acronym.
Intellectual property.
You gotta have a.
Hey, you know, you can't have 2 acronyms and then brother just give a little sentence. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to get
Powerful skill, brother. Powerful skill,
acronyms. Look.
Absolutely. Listen, so I definitely appreciate y'all being on. I appreciate y'all time. This conversation is so rich, and I'm definitely believing already that's going to impact some people. You know, and again, thank you all, each of you, for your time, your individual work, what you're doing for the culture, what you're doing for our people. I want to say personally, I appreciate each of you. You all are my brothers. You all are my tribe. You know, for sure. And so what we're going to do, we're going to pause it right here, and we're going to pick up, and we're going to get into this conversation about our Black boys next time. I can't tell you when, TBD, but we just look, subscribe, like, share, whatever, get connected with us, and you'll see that when it comes up. But I want to thank my panelists. I'll make sure to put y'all info in the bio, but I wanted to say thank you to each of y'all, and we'll be back. And so again, on behalf of the Black Men Wellness Lounge, I want to say I appreciate each and every one of you for checking it out, and come back with us soon.